Okay, so the session or the webinar is now being recorded. And as we mentioned earlier, please, if you have any questions, leave it to the end. And then I'll make sure to answer all your questions, hopefully. Hopefully we'll have enough time to answer all the questions. Okay, so let's get the show on the road. Now, for the session today, basically we'll be concerned with communicative speaking activities. And what's the relation between communicative speaking activity and fluency activity, and what can we consider a communicative speaking activity. Now, first, let me walk you through some of the questions that will be answered today. So the first one is a communicative activity always a fluency activity? The second one is a fluency activity always communicative? The third question is a freer activity fluency or accuracy focused? And we'll be looking at some errors with fluency activities and how to deal with them. And we'll also look at some of the common problems that you might face in the classroom in relation to speaking activities. Okay, so I'll give you a moment, have a look at the agenda for today before we dive into the webinar. And again, please, if you have any questions, please let me know. Okay, good. So, okay, guys. So the first thing we are going to discuss today, or we're gonna look at today, is basically what makes a speaking activity successful. What do we need to have? What is speaking? What are the sub skills? What are the main skills? What are the functions? Because normally when we talk about speaking, some people think of one thing, some other people think of another thing. But now we're going to look at 4 different things that come to mind when you hear the word speaking or teaching speaking in the classroom. Now, for the first thing that we have is what we call the speaking skills. And probably these two, like you're all familiar with the terminology, fluency and accuracy. So these are the first things that come to mind when you hear the word speaking sub-skills or speaking skills. Now, the second thing that comes to mind is what we call speaking functions. So basically, if you look here, to perform efficiently and to increase or to improve the fluency or accuracy of any student, you would need to use some of the functions. And these are, for example, how to interrupt, what phrases can we use to agree or disagree, turn taking, like how to take turns while speaking. All of those are under functions, different functions that we can use to promote fluency or accuracy. And then the third thing is different, like normally the task types. What task type are you going to use in the classroom? Is it going to be a debate? Is it going to be a role play? Is it going to be an interview? So what kind of task are you using? Of course, we have a lot of other examples, but these are just some to make the point clear. And the fourth one is basically the communicative purpose. Like, why are students communicating together? Are they filling a table? Are they completing a thought? What is the purpose behind their communication? It should be something authentic. It should be something that would happen in real life. It should be something meaningful. So put that in mind. Now, all of these or all these 4 aspects are normally what comes to mind when you hear the word speaking. And today, basically, we'll be focusing more with communicative purposes and communicative tasks and the fluency as well, because sometimes they overlap. Okay. Now, now moving on to the first question. And this is the first question we're going to tackle today. So please just type your answers in the chat box as quick as possible. What do we mean by communicative speaking activities? Maybe you can give me 1 or 2 words. What do you think? What comes to your mind when we talk about communicative speaking activities? Just in the chat box, just let me know in the chat box. Anything that comes to your mind. Like if you have taught it before, if you have done something similar before, just let me know. Okay, no problem. So you can type it in the questions. I'm gonna allow chat box. I'm sorry. Okay. Uh, okay, to ask a question, production, fair practice, maybe. So all of that can work. Anything else? Any other ideas? Okay, I think the chat box is enabled now. If you could try it, everyone. Okay. Conversation. Okay, very nice. Activities that make students communicate. Okay, very good. All of these are very nice ideas. Authentic. Okay, very nice. Like everyone has got expressing themselves. Okay, those are all like really nice ideas, everyone. Good job. Okay, to speak with a purpose. Yes, all of that is absolutely fine. Now, we'll be looking at what makes a communicative task. Now, basically, you have three major ideas. Now, the first thing is it helps students to produce meaningful and real communication at all levels. Like it should be real and meaningful. So it should be something that imitates what happens in real life, not something just for them to speak. Like for example, talk to your friend. This is not actually communicative. There is no meaning behind it. There is no reason for them to listen to each other. So this is what we need to consider. Also, it normally has more focus on skills than systems. Like we normally focus more on improving skills other than systems. So this is something else. And it's more learner centered. It's more about the students and the discussions with like they discuss with each other, not with the teacher. So it's normally more about the students. Okay. Now, normally labeling an activity as communicative indicates that normally students would communicate with each other in order to complete a task. Like there should be a reason or a task for them to complete or a process for them to complete. So you need to put that in mind. Okay. Now, again, another question is, and this is just a yes no question, is a communicative activity always a fluency activity? So again, is a communicative activity like something that has the previous criteria? Is it always a fluency activity? Just let me know with a yes or no. Okay, we have a lot of yeses. Nice. Any other ideas? No. Okay. Okay. So between yes and no, most of the people. Okay. Okay. So I think we have some. The majority say yes, which is something they think. Okay. So now actually, the answer is that no, it's not always a fluency-based activity, and we'll see some examples and see how they differ from being a communicative and fluency at the same time, or just communicative. Now, before we move to look at different examples, normally, like when we label a communicative activity, so it normally incorporates a range of activities from controlled to freer practice. So it's not always fluency based. uh, Again, labeling activity as communicative normally means that the students are communicating to complete a task, to do a process or something. So it's not, again, it's not always fluency. So you don't have to link both of them together. Something, for example, like an information gap activity can make students practice the language in a very controlled way, very controlled production, not fluency based, but still communicative. And we would have a look at some of the examples right now. Okay. So Now, if we look at 3 practice activities, something that you always come across in the classroom, something that you might have used before, or you might have asked students to use before. So have a look at these questions or these tasks, and just let me know again if you think these ones are communicative or not. Just yes or no. Yet, if you think they are communicative practice activities. No, if you think they're not. Just let me know, everyone, in the questions and answers or the chat box, if the chat box is working now. So what do you think, everyone? Okay. Yes, yes. Okay. Some people are saying yes. Okay. What else do we have? Not communicative, not always, kind of. Okay. Like the answers, like kind of, not always. Okay. Okay. Now, actually, all of these are very nice speaking activities, but unfortunately, they are not communicative. Like, there is no purpose behind the communication. Like, when you give this to students, when you say, for example, describe a movie to your friend, like, oh, if I am the friend, why do I have to listen? Why do I have to care about the movie you're describing? There is no actual purpose for communication. There is no actual purpose for communicating together. So it's not actually communicative. If you say, for example, tell your classmates your daily routine. So again, why do I have to listen to your daily routine? So there should be something that makes me listen to your daily routine. There should be some sort of a comparison, maybe something that helps us reflect on our daily routines. So this is something else. Okay. So again, as you all or most of you have already mentioned, these are not actually communicative. So an example of communicative activities could be something similar to this. So if you look here, you will find 2 different examples of of the same task. So if you look to the one on the left that says 2CA, this one here, you will find that I have the names of the movies, like 3 movies, but the times and prices or ticket prices are not there. So basically, this is something that I would need to get from the other student. And then if you look on the other task on the right, you would find that I have the names of the movies, the same movies, with the times and the ticket prices. So this is what we call an information gap activity. Again, it's very controlled because students need to complete only these movies. They are using limited language. It's from an elementary course book, face-to-face. But still, it is communicative because students need to communicate. So this is one example. Now, if we look at another example, could be this one. Okay, 2 students, this is from a higher level, and another course book, which is called Empower, Upper Intermediate. So we have 2 students, and these 2 students should be communicating. Someone needs to buy something, and the other needs to suggest, agree, or disagree. So again, there is a purpose. There is a thought for a student to complete, something to agree on. So again, this is communicative. So instead of asking students to what to call it, instead of asking students to just talk together about shopping, we can give them something like this. So this is something to think of. Okay. So hopefully this was clear. Okay. Just people who are asking about the chat box, I think it's open now, like you can use it now. Please give it a try and let me know. I think it's working now. Okay. Hey, yes, it's working. Cool. Good. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. Yes, it's working now. Okay. Good. So we will leave the questions and answers to the end in case you have a question. This is what I will be looking at. And now we can use the chat box. Okay, cool. I'm glad it's finally working, everyone. Thank you so much. Okay. Now, so as we have been saying, this is another example of a communicative activity, a communicative task. Okay. Now, We have now another question, or the second question that we need to answer. Is a fluency activity always communicative? Now, you need to think carefully because this is like the other way around. The first question was, is a communicative activity always fluency based? But this time, is a fluency activity always communicative? Okay, so some people are saying yes, of course. Some people are saying not always. Okay, no, no, no. Yes. Okay. Yes, it's finally working. Okay. Okay, could be. Okay. Depends. I love these answers. Like it depends, yes, or something. Like something you're not entirely sure. So certainly. Okay. Love the confidence. Okay. Now, if we actually have a look at the answer to this question, it will still be not really. Like it's not always a fluency activity is not always communicative, and we'll know why in a moment. Uh, Depending on how to use it, yes, it depends on how to use it, of course. So we'll be seeing now whether it's what you have in mind or something different. Now, let's first talk about fluency activities. Now, the first thing we need to know about a fluency activity is that it's designed to increase students' awareness of some features or a lot of features in relation to fluent speaking or conversation. So it's not always speaking, but it can also be could also be awareness raising. The aim could also be awareness raising. There is a relation, Asma, between them, but they don't have to always be related. But there is a relation between them. Now, another thing to consider, like the activity is not necessarily focused on communication between students. Like it doesn't have to focus only on communication. And we'll see an example right now. And finally, this is something to put in your mind. Fluency focused activities do not always mean it's communicative. Okay, it might be the prime reason or the prime aim for the activity could be awareness raising. So it's not always communicative. Now, an example. So it's all about speaking skills. Yeah, it's all about speaking soft skills that you focus on to improve students' fluency. Uh, Daily routine or favorite day of the week. Yes, but talking about daily routines or favorite day of the week, this is actually fluency based. So no. Okay, now if we look at a different example of how it could be fluency based but not communicative, okay, is when you try, for example, to raise students' awareness of different features of connected speech, for example, if you are training them on how to spot or use linking or weak forms, if you're training your students on intonation, to use intonation accurately and to be polite and to use the correct register, and it could also be using fillers, something to help them think while they are talking. So it can be anything that increases their fluency, but it doesn't have to be communicative because, for example, with linking and weak forms and the intonation, they could be listening to an audio track, marking or doing an exercise just to get them familiar with it. Of course, stress as well, Amr, thank you so much. So it's not entirely related to being communicative as long as you are making sure you're improving their fluency. So it could be both awareness raising or fluency based as well, or communicative. So you don't have to put them together. Yes, exactly, Hala. To train or raise their sub skills or improve their sub skills. So yes, you got everything right. Okay, good. So with this out of the way, uh, there is something that you really, really need to remember. If students are doing a speaking exercise, if they're doing a speaking practice, it should be communicative. If they are speaking, then it should be communicative. Okay, just put that in mind. Whenever students are speaking, it should be communicative. Okay. Now we come to the third question for today, and is a freer activity, again, is a freer activity fluency or accuracy based? So instead of typing the full word, just write F for fluency, write A for accuracy. Which one you think? Okay. Wow. Okay, everybody's saying fluency. Okay. This is very nice. Okay, thank you so much, everyone. Both of them. Okay, we'll see in a moment. Okay. 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 So first, let's just talk about prayer practice activities for a moment and see where they come in relation to a lesson and which lesson do they actually exist in. Now, normally when we hear the word prayer speaking practice, what comes to our mind is present, practice, produce. Like this model, because the prayer practice normally comes in the production stage. So it comes at the final stage. Also, uh, as we said, it comes in the production stage, but it's in theory or ideally, it helps students to manipulate and change and use all the language they know or they have in order to complete the task or produce the speaking output that you're expecting from students. Also, it's student rather than teacher-centered. It's normally student-centered. It's not teacher-centered. So this is something to keep in mind. Again, it's always a fair practice is always a stage in which fluency follow on from accuracy. Because if we are thinking or if we are looking at present the practice produced, basically the practice, the second stage is the control the practice, and then the production, this would be the fair practice. So it comes after accuracy. And it normally has an underlying language focus. Normally in language classrooms, this is what we have. Uh, but it's normally about the language, as we said. So, and the final thing to consider is that it's more of fluency practice than accuracy. It doesn't normally work as both of them. In case you were asking, because some of you mentioned this in the chat box, so it doesn't normally work as both of them, and it doesn't actually. It's not related to whether it was in a lower level or a higher level. A freer practice should always promote fluency because a controlled practice normally always promotes accuracy. So this is why they follow from each other. Like we have accuracy in the controlled practice, and then we have fluency in the freer practice. And it's not only writing; it can be writing or speaking. So it can be any of the productive skills. And yes, students should feel free to share their opinions, use the language, they have everything. Now, an example to this, if you're teaching, for example, the present simple in the presentation stage, and then you are having in the control the practice or the practice stage, you have a fill in the gaps, for example, in which students need to complete with the verb, with s, es, etc. So maybe the freer practice could be something in which they describe their daily routine, in which they describe something they do daily at work or yearly or weekly, depending on the context of your lesson. So this is how it normally goes from controlled, which promotes accuracy, to freer, which promotes fluency. So yes, it's normally fair practice activities are fluency based rather than accuracy based. Okay. Now, if you look at this one, for example, over here, this is an example from Empower Upper Intermediate. Uh, it's just about dangerous situation that you or someone they know might be in or was in, and they need to answer these questions, and then they will tell the stories or tell the situation to each other. However, if you look at exercise B from the same uh, practice activity, you will find it saying, tell each other your story, use different narrative tenses and expressions, ask questions. So this is where we give them a purpose for communicating. They need to ask questions to know more about the situation that their friend is telling. It is meaningful. And basically, as you can see, it's more related to narrative tenses. So I have taught them narrative tenses, and I need them to use these narrative tenses in speaking in a freer practice. and it is communicative, Radwa. The communicative purpose is basically asking questions, getting to know more about the situation. Okay. And okay, again, being communicative is not necessarily related to being pre-selected or having pre-selected structures. This is not one of the measures to put in mind. Okay, normally in the classroom or any classroom, there will be pre-selected structures. This doesn't make it not communicative. It's normally communicative. Okay. Now, if we look at another example, okay, which is something about a visitor who's visiting the company. Okay. Sorry, a visitor who's visiting a country, not a company. Sorry. You need to prepare some notes in order to talk to that person and give them more ideas. And then again, you will find the communicative purpose in exercise C. Student A, talk about your country. Student B, you're the visitor, ask questions, then change roles. Now, these two exercises are fair practice exercises, and they are communicative at the same time. So, and again, they are taken from Empower, Upper Intermediate, Cambridge, and you can find plenty of such exercises in the book. It's a very nice book. Okay, now, right now we'll be moving to errors in fluency activities in particular. And if we have enough time, we could focus on accuracy activities as well. Now, looking here, we have some sentences, some beliefs for different teachers. So take a look. I'll give you a minute to go through them, and then we're gonna discuss each of them and see whether they are true or false, should happen or shouldn't happen, and what exactly should happen in each of them. Yes, Rehan, working in pairs or groups is always for an activity to be communicative, there should be pairs or groups, so it's fine. Okay, not all of them are true, not all of them are false, or correct or incorrect. Well, we'll discuss all of them together. Now, if we look at the first one, which says correction in a fluency activity should come in a correction slot in the end of the activity, this is absolutely true because it's suitable for different stages. Okay, so this is true because we do not want to interrupt the flow of the lesson or the flow of the activity and stop students and correct them. So it's not always a good idea. It's something that we need to consider. Okay. Normally, again, we're talking about fluency activities, so we need to avoid interruption as much as possible. However, you can interrupt if the message is not clear. But as long as students are communicating, the message is clear and everyone is happy, just please do not interrupt them. You can decide that the feedback could be more useful. For example, you could provide students with more expressions, more ideas to use later on, but try not to interrupt them as much as possible. Okay. So again, as we said, we'll only correct, we'll only interfere if the message or the communication breaks down. So this is something to consider. Okay. Now, the second one says it's the role of the teacher to correct errors. Now, our students, especially in the Middle East, or normal students, any student would expect the teacher to correct errors. Like this is one of the expectations of students. Although it's something that we try to not avoid, that we try to train students in being autonomous and correct their own errors, but still we cannot ignore their expectations. So sometimes we as teachers can correct, sometimes they can peer correct, which is very valuable and very important, but they need to be trained. They need to understand the reason behind making them correct each other or provide correction for different sentences. But still, it is our role in some of in our culture, for example, but still we need to train them to be more autonomous. Okay. Now, correction of inaccurate language improves fluency. Okay. Now, some people say that if we correct inaccurate language, it doesn't work on fluency, it just works in accuracy. But actually it works on both, like it has an effect in both of them. So their ability to manipulate language, play with the language, using different aspects of fluency with reasonable correctness is acceptable, and it actually promotes fluency, which is nice. Uh, so it is important to correct, is very important. Uh, Feedback and the other aspects are also important for fluency, because it's not only about speaking all the time. If students keep speaking all the time, but their language is not actually accurate, or they don't know how to use correct intonation, or how to use correct stress, this would not help in their fluency. So they need some corrections. But just put in mind that students will never be 100% accurate. It's actually unrealistic to expect students to be 100% accurate. So do not let this affect your lessons, or do not let it get on your nerves and say, I need them to be 100% accurate. No, they will never be. And this is why students are students. They make mistakes, they learn, and then they improve. So do not expect them to be 100% accurate. Okay. Now, if we look at D, never correct during a fluency activity. This is similar to A, that what we discussed. We normally interrupt if the message is not clear or if the communication breaks down. So we do not always correct. So just put that in mind, and we will not waste more time here. Okay. Now, for E, students need guidance in identifying errors made by a classmate or by classmates. Yeah. This actually, normally, if your class is comfortable, sorry guys. Okay, if your class is comfortable with peer correction, it will be amazing, because it's very important, valuable, and crucial for students to learn. Uh, if they are not familiar with it, maybe you can teach them, tell them the importance of peer correction, but just be careful, because with some students, with some cultures, students actually do not accept being corrected by their colleagues. Maybe you would have one student in the classroom who wouldn't accept it, so you will need to be very careful. Uh, but it can also be a good idea if you could, for example, identify the mistakes for them or the errors for them, and they can correct it to their friends, or on the board, for example. If you like to correct it anonymously on the board, sometimes you could write the number of mistakes in each sentence next to the sentence, and then students would search for those mistakes or those errors and try to correct them. It would be a very nice idea as well. Okay. Now, if we look at number F, it doesn't really matter. Um, like, actually, this is not the good way to go about it, and it's not something nice to ignore what students are saying just because they made a mistake, or that because they have an error. Students actually get very demotivated, and they get like discouraged because of this. So make sure to acknowledge the messages, make sure to acknowledge everything, and then you can correct as many errors as possible. So do not make correcting errors is your only passion in the classroom, because students again could get very demotivated when it comes to correcting errors all the time. And just put in mind that errors are something positive. Uh, if students are making mistakes, it could mean that they are actually learning. So they are using something different, and they are making mistakes, and they're getting feedback. So it could mean that it's actually something good. So you also need to think from the other point of view as well. Okay. Now, right now we'll be looking at some problems that might happen in speaking activities when you are performing, or when you're conducting a speaking activity in the classroom. So take a look at the problems that might face you as a teacher, and let me know in the chat box which one of them did you actually have with your students. Like, have you encountered one of them, many of them? Which one actually have you encountered with the students? Okay. Okay, we have a lot of ideas. I think more or less each of you would have encountered at least one of them. So yeah, most of them or nearly all of them. I personally have been teaching for some time, and I could say that I have encountered like nearly all of them, and all of them could actually happen in one classroom because different students might have different problems. Yeah, like normally all of them. So this is also something to consider. Now, if you already anticipate these problems in case you're having a speaking activity and then you anticipate such problems, you will be ready in the classroom with a solution. So this is something for you guys to be ready in the classroom. If you're having a speaking activity, these are some of the anticipated problems that you might come across and that you will need to be ready with a solution for. So if we look, for example, at number A, letter A, students may not or may not feel they have anything to say. So what this is a common problem that they think they don't have anything to say. So one way to deal with this problem is to brainstorm ideas with the students, give them enough time in the preparation stages to prepare their ideas, think about the language they're going to use, and then they can move to the speaking. Just do not put them in the spotlights, under the spotlight immediately, and ask them to speak or give you an answer. This is not actually helpful. So this is something that you could do. Also, if we look at B, students may not wish to discuss the topic. Maybe the topic is not interesting, and then this would be a big problem. You need to think about students' interests and the preferences before you select your topic. So again, this is something to consider. May lack aspects of language necessary to participate. This is C. And again, you can give them the stage that we call useful language before they start speaking. You can give them some phrases to use when they are speaking. Uh, Giving them a video to watch and write and speak is not always helpful, even with lower levels, because we need to give them a lot of support. So you need to give them the language they're going to use. Like, for example, if they are discussing a topic and they have to agree or disagree, then you need to give them the phrases to use. And this will add to their vocabulary range, and then they could use it later on. Okay, for example, if you look at D, students may lack speaking skills. Again, you can train them on speaking skills like interrupting, turn taking, all of these. So you can actually train students to do all of them. So we can have many answers to these problems, but the most important thing is for you to be ready in the classroom in case you come across these or one of these problems. You need to have a solution so you are not surprised in the classroom. Okay, now this would be the end of the webinar for me. And please let me know if you have any questions in relation to speaking or anything else I can answer. Thank you, Zara. Someone was asking about correction with accuracy or accuracy-based exercises. I think it's more or less if it's a controlled practice. Actually, the correction starts from monitoring. While you're monitoring, you micro teach, and then you could actually offer some corrections there. So it actually starts, or the answer key or answers on the board. So this can also be something. Okay, Radwa, the communicative activity. If it's not meaningful, then it's not communicative. If they are just completing something um, like something that's useless, it's not actually communicative. So yeah. Okay, isn't communicative. I mean, it's not. No, again, Rodwa, it's not about pre-selecting language or structures. It's basically about the activity itself, not the pre-selection. What should I do when students can't participate or do the fair practice? Okay, you need to understand why they refuse to do the fair practice. You need to understand the reason, the rationale behind it. Maybe the topic is not interesting. Maybe they lack the language. Maybe they're afraid of making mistakes. So you need to understand, then we can solve it. Because every student has a reason. Everyone has a rationale. Uh, okay, male teens, brothers who refuse to speak most of the time. I think, Minna, if you could find an interesting topic, something that they are interested in, they would be speaking all the time. Is the correction in fluency unconscious? What do you mean by that? If again some language isn't going to be on mine, no, it's again, we're not giving them practice on the language. We're giving them some phrases to use in the fair practice or the speaking task. We're not just giving them control the practice using some phrases. Okay, go back to the previous slide. Yes, sure. Okay, here it is. Thank you so much, everyone. Yes, the link of the certificates, I need to share it with you guys. So if you could wait a little bit, so I can get it and put it in the chat box. Just a minute. Okay, I think I have it here. I will be answering some of the questions. Can we have a copy of the presentation, please? Yeah, sure. I'll upload it. Okay, I'm gonna send you the link for the certificates now, everyone. So just please don't leave. Wait for a second. Okay, what should I exactly correct or pick on during monitoring? Okay, again, Malik, during monitoring, if students are doing a controlled practice, then you can correct what you taught. You would not correct all the other things. Basically, if it's, for example, like a fill in the gaps or something. So this is what you can correct. Okay, would you upload the webinar? Yes, sure, I will upload the webinar and then I will share the link as well. Okay, thank you so much, everyone. Application to use it with the students. Yes, Selma, most of the course books, most of the newly made course books, the modern ones, are using communicative practice, speaking activity. So you could have, try a course book, which is called Empower. I have already used it in the slides. You could try, there is another course book, which is actually task-based. It's called Cutting Edge. It's also very nice. Okay, I'm gonna send you my email in the chat box because some people are asking for it. Okay, so this is my email. Okay, yes, over here. Okay, okay, Sarah shared the certificates with you guys, and I'm gonna share it as well again in case you missed the first link. Okay. Oops, why is my link bigger? Okay, anyways. So, okay, this is the link, and Sarah has shared it many times. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm just looking to see if there are any other questions. What about tongue twisters as a fluency way to know? Tongue twisters are nice, but to be honest, they're not my favorite because most of the time we as adults get confused with tongue twisters. So if you are using it with the students, it might get them demotivated than motivating them. So if they are not only limited for pronunciation, they will be very difficult because again, normally tongue twisters are for pronunciation, to improve pronunciation, not entirely fluency. Okay, what can I do if the student express him or herself in English, but she cannot just translate their ideas in Arabic? They think in Arabic. Ah, okay. Again, they would take some time because if they lack the language, they would need more time to translate from Arabic to English. So with time, when they have enough language, they would be able to think of like to think in English. But this wouldn't happen immediately, and this wouldn't happen from the first time. They need time. Uh, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much. Selma, I will send you a message. This is it. Okay. Okay, I'm just looking to see if there are any more questions. Okay, I think I answered this one. Okay. The channel is with my name, Hamid Sharif. So if you will find that, and I'm gonna share the link as well. And I will be adding the PowerPoint, so don't worry. And if you're teaching TEFL, I need more information. Okay, Riham, maybe I've sent my email below, and maybe you can just contact me over Facebook or email. Okay, so there is also a very nice book that if you would like to use, it's called How to Teach Speaking by Scott Thornbury. So this is something for you to consider. Okay. Thank you, Rafe. I miss you in the classroom as well. It was a fine Celta. Like it was one of the best Celtas, and the craziest I have ever been into, Rafe. So thank you so much. Um, Thank you so much, everyone. And in relation to Celta, I think someone sent me a question or something. Uh, oh, thank you so much, Moro. Thank you so much. The name of the book is called How to Teach Speaking. How to Teach Speaking. The author is Scott Thornbury. Okay. I'm gonna upload the recording, so don't worry. I will be uploading everything, guys. And if you're asking about Celta, okay. So let's just make sure. Let me just look at the question. Okay. Here we have. Okay. So if you're asking about Celta, probably now is the time if you would like to do it, because I think it's getting higher or more expensive in the coming days. So if you can, maybe you can do it now. Yes, Tasneem, this is the end, unless you have any more questions, everyone. I'm gonna send you the PowerPoint. I'm gonna send you everything. Thank you so much, Mervit. I'm gonna send you everything. If you would need, sorry, the YouTube channel or anything, just follow my Facebook, and then I will be uploading everything. The certificate with the link Sarah is sending right now. So this is where you can find the link, everyone.